The Michael Berry Show.
I received an email this morning from a fellow named Dan Agan, and this will be our third Palm Beach trip, and we've done 2 Aspen trips. Dan came on our first and maybe our second Aspen trip. They start to run together after a while. And he's an interesting guy. He lives up in, I think, Anderson, Texas, up somewhere in Grimes County. And he owns approximately 38 trillion acres. I don't know, he owns a lot of land, and he has a timber company. And so he manages timber interests on the properties that he has. And he's one of these really, really smart guys with a computer who's always dreaming up ideas on how you save the country. Thank God for people like this. And so he will send me things that he's reading and things like that. So he sends me an email early this morning. This lady is one of the individual warriors you were talking about lately, and that was those people like Bob Schote and Marissa Hanson and different Rachel Palmer Hooper, the people who put in the time and energy to research things and share it with the rest of us, and thank God for them. He says she fights toll roads, car shutoff switches, right to repair, and terrible bills that elevate bikes over cars. I like her already. So he sends me the newsletter that she sends out, and the top line in the newsletter says, "Stop the road diets." And I must confess, I didn't know what a road diet was. And I start reading, and this woman is up there hawking every bill in the state legislature in Austin that would affect the average person that doesn't have a lobbyist. And I've come to the conclusion that a road diet is restricting how many roads we have so they can take away our roads for the bike riders. And you know, the thing about this is bike riders all drive cars. 99% of the time they're on a road, they're in their car. But 1% of the time they like to ride in a bike. They like to ride their bike. But they would take up half the roads and give them to the bike. It's the most inefficient thing I have ever seen. Idiotic and inefficient, and everyone is scared of the bike riders. Well, I can't stand that, because we'll be left with no roads except a bunch of lanes for bike riders. And guess what? That's how you get bike riders killed, by the way. That's how you get them killed, and that's not good for anybody. All right, Terry Hall is her name. Terry, welcome to the program.
Hi, Michael. Good to be with you.
Yes. So how did you get – so her organization, if you want to read about her when we go to break in just a moment, is called Texas Turf, T-U-R-F, Texas Turf, Texans Uniting for Reform and Freedom. This is I've read your entire newsletter from this morning, and it's chock full of interesting stuff. This is most interesting, Terry. I'm impressed.
Well, I'm glad. It's a lot of work, let me tell you.
She's cute too, Ramona, if you were wondering. How did you get involved in this, kind of as a citizen activist for good, not a cuckoo citizen activist? Or you might be cuckoo, I don't know that.
Right, exactly.
But as a citizen activist for normal people.
Well, I can tell you there isn't anybody up there advocating for taxpayers in general. It's all the lobbyists that are paid by these entities, particularly the toll road authorities, that are working against us 24/7. Well, I didn't even get involved in this until I realized what was happening. I lived near San Antonio for the first 15 years. We lived in Texas. We still do live near San Antonio, but we're on the west side now. But I can tell you they were going to come in and take every lane of 281 that we drove every single day to get into San Antonio and turn it into a toll lane. And then we found out they were going to hand it to a private foreign corporation for profit in a 50-year deal. And that's when that just blew the lid off for me. There's no way you're going to come and take our Texas roads and hand them to foreign operators. Not going to happen. Not on my watch.
Well, Terry, you probably know there have been several
side of it to try and stop it.
There have been several efforts by the kinds of people who go from politician to lobbyist to government commission all over the state of Texas, including several roads outside of Houston, major thoroughfares, where I think they sold one of them to Spain, to a Spanish company, where they would actually sell our roads backed by a revenue stream of tolls. It is sickening what these people do. Imagine driving a Texas road and it's owned by a foreign government.
That's right. And that happened on State Highway 288. You may remember that one. That one was operated by a foreign consortium. I think it was actually Israeli, French, British. It was a whole conglomeration of different foreign entities that get in on these deals. and they get guaranteed profits for 50 plus years on the backs of taxpayers. We pay for Mexican drivers or anyone from out of state that they can't collect a toll from. We pay for that. We pay to reduce their truck toll rates. They have non-compete agreements that say you cannot build a free road that competes with their toll revenue.
Right.
So that's why your free roads are jammed up, folks, because they're writing contracts that sell us down a river. And that's what I've been doing in the legislature ever since. It's been over 20 years now. This is, I think, my 11th legislative session working in the Texas legislature on behalf of taxpayers to try and stop this.
All right, hold on just a moment. Terri Hall, Terri. Her website is Texas Turf, TURF. Terri, first of all, do you have a day job? Do you make a living doing this? It matters because I think people. No, it's important to understand. Not everybody can do this. It's a tough thing to do. Maybe you're in a financial position you can. I'm glad you're doing this. I think this is fantastic. The more I read of what you're doing, I love it.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And I don't work outside the home. I'm actually a homeschool mom of 10 kids.
Oh,
and
my.
So I'm still homeschooling actively. And so I'm very, very busy. To say that I don't work outside the home, that's why I chuckle, because I definitely have a job.
Right. Well, that's why I use that term.
On my plate. And we're small business owners. That's true. And we are small business owners, and that is, a full-time job in and of itself, just keeping our house operating. But I'll tell you what, you're right. Not a lot of people can do what I do. And at the end of the day, it has to be done, because I feel like there's so many times where I've just been so stretched every direction going, how am I going to read these 1,000 bills and digest them and understand how to follow all of them and then get there to Austin and testify against them and do all the things I do. But I'll tell you what, when you realize and your eyes are opened about how bad it is and how they come at us with a pipeline of bad bill after bad bill every single session, and they just get worse and worse, who's going to be there to stand in the gap? I mean, I feel like I know too much. I can't stop at this point. I just have got to kill all these bills. They're just terrible.
You hear it said, and I found this to be true, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. Busy people know how to get things done. They don't deliberate, worry, get anxious, overthink, procrastinate. They know, do it and move on. They're deciders. They're decision makers. They're not indecisive. I'm amazed how often I talk to someone like you, and as I begin to peel back the layers of the onion, not only are you in Austin, hawking every bill that will affect all of us, because we don't have lobbyists, updating this, speaking all over the state, writing the newsletter and all that, but you're also homeschooling and probably spending more time helping your husband with the family business than you're giving yourself credit for. It's amazing to me how often I find, and it's usually women who are engaged in advocacy and things like this, and they're also homeschooling. It's like, why would you add that? Of course you would add that extra thing. And I love it. I admire it. I think it's fantastic.
I'll tell you, my kids are certainly, my kids don't have their head in the sand either. Believe me, they're quite politically aware. Most of the time they probably don't like it, but that's just how our family is.
I don't believe that. I think they're incredibly proud of their mother, as they should be.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. But you mentioned the road diet issue, and that's another one. We've been fighting toll roads really for 20 years in Texas, and we've had a bill since 2011 to take the tolls off the road when they're paid for, and to stop all these gimmicks with the surplus revenue, which I know has been a huge problem there in Harris County in particular, where they take that surplus revenue and spend it on everything except roads. And that's been a huge problem. But we also have the problem where they're literally coming after our cars. They want to shrink our road space and give it over to bikes and buses in these buffered lanes and the special matchstick pipes, and make it impossible to make a right turn or a left turn on so many of these roads, particularly downtown Houston, where I've been many times for different speaking engagements as well as for the Republican convention. And it's almost impossible to get around. I mean, that's what they want. And your former mayor, Sylvester Turner, literally said before the Transportation Commission, if you slow down the trucks and the cars, they'll get out of the trucks and the cars and get on the bikes and the buses.
That's exactly right.
That is the goal of the left.
Statements like that. There's a Houston, Galveston area council. There's different commissions and these things, these sort of multi-state, multi-agency, metro, all that. It's a bunch of, you look at how many of them are former state senators, former county commissioners,
that's right,
lawyers and lobbyists, who their whole, they see these big pools of money, and what they're doing is harassing the day-to-day commuter who just wants to get on the road to
right.
get back and forth to work and get their kids, and they can't imagine what's going on behind closed doors at these meetings of these commissions. It's infuriating to me.
It is, and there's a term you all need to know if you haven't already become aware of it in the Houston area. It's called Vision Zero, and their goal is to take away our cars, to get everybody out of their cars and get them in mass transit, walking or biking everywhere they go. And it's really kind of that designed as part of that 15-minute city concept that started in Paris and in Europe, particularly during the lockdowns. And they all think, wow, this is wonderful. There was no cars on the road. They thought that was the utopia of the world, is to have us going nowhere and producing nothing. Well, that's what they really want long term. They want us out of our cars, and everywhere you go, you have to be able to go on bike, foot, or mass transit within 15 minutes of your home. And that's not the life that most Texans want.
No.
Certainly not. But Vision Zero is trying to impose that. And when you see all these bills that come through, who's on the opposite side of me testifying? It's Vision Zero. And they literally bust people in from Harris County. I've seen them do it before on different bills and advocate that they take away our road funds, give them to these bikes and buses, mass transit initiatives, and sometimes they'll even put race into it. They'll try and put diversity, equity, inclusion into transportation decision-making and who should get funded and who shouldn't. It was all part of Pete Buttigieg's Reconnecting Communities plan, and they're doing it on parts of I-45 right now where they're trying to put these grassy parks over the top of our highways and sink down our highways and supposedly reunify communities this way. Well, as a mom of 10, the last place I want my kids playing is on top of a highway. It doesn't make any sense. They're wasting our money left and right, and it's all part of the left's agenda to take away our cars. And that's what I stand in the gap on behalf of Texans, because there isn't anybody that's there for us and is, a voice for us in the legislature. So we've just cobbled together this grassroots effort across the state and said, no, we're going to push back on this. You're not going to come do this to us. And it's for all those working class folks out there. I'm trying to do my best to stand in the gap for you, because that's what motivates me to get up at 4 a.m. and haul myself over to Austin to be there for these committee hearings and testify.
Terry Hall, you are awesome. Folks, the website is TexasTurf.org. Donate, support her, volunteer. Here's your opportunity to get involved.
The Michael Perry Show.
Enjoy it.